Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Talent Finders podcast. Talent Finders, we'd like to welcome Jeff Nemeth, entrepreneur and personal development coach. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Jeff, you got bitten by the entrepreneurial bug early in life. Can you please share more about this and your journey?
Yeah, I mean, in one way or another, I've been pretty much involved in some sort of entrepreneurial adventure since I was, I think it was like 6 or 7. My brother, myself, and a couple neighbor kids started selling lemonade and whatever we could get our hands on to construction workers that were building a building down the block from where we lived. And so we started there and we took ourselves out, had a big pizza party at the end of the summer. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is crazy. This is fun. We just make this stuff and then sell it. And like, this is great. You know, my brother and I started cutting lawns. We shoveled snow. We did all that kind of stuff up until right when I was in college. And then I got involved in the hospitality business. My career kind of turned. For the first time, I was an employee, and the one thing that I discovered, I really like working with people.
Yes.
So I worked, that was when I got into the hotel restaurant business. It was with the idea of I can get paid. I'll be able to move around the world and visit different places around the world, and I will get paid to help someone like have a great day or a great vacation or a great hotel stay or a great meal or all this stuff. And I thought that was cool. I loved it, that human interaction with people. So from there, I worked in marketing got into the media business, worked for one of the major newspapers here as the newspaper business started to crumble. And at that time I started entrepreneurship again. And I started as a personal trainer. I had gotten certified. I'd been messing around in the gym. I'd had some success there. I'd helped some friends, and I figured I might as well get paid to do this on the side. And that lasted for like a month. And then I decided, fuck it, I'll quit. And I'm on my own. And so
Yeah.
I've kind of been doing that ever since.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm all in now.
Yes, for sure. So I'm just going to backtrack a little. Obviously as a teenager, you started in the entrepreneurial landscape and developed a love for serving and making customers happy. So what was it that what were some of the greatest lessons and learnings you gained early in life, as you grew up? So, and that you could apply, in your entrepreneurial, areas or where you actually ended up working?
I think that one of the first things that I learned about myself is that I liked working with people and I have a skill with it. And that was even as a teenager. I just knew that I was good interacting with people and I was comfortable interacting with people. And people seemed to enjoy being around me, whether it was, in a golf course or whether it was, selling the lemonade. I remember that, whether it was cutting grass. I just knew that I had a skill there, and my dad was in sales his whole life. So I kind of think I took some of that genetically, and then also from being around my dad and seeing how he is with people, and he loves to talk and make friends. He makes friends everywhere he goes, and kind of the same way. So that was one of those things that I never really directly looked at that as an entrepreneurship lesson, but as I've looked back and reflected a little bit more, it kind of was. And I think, if you get into this journey and the entrepreneurship thing it's a weird, there's no logic in it. Cause we say, we essentially tell the world, piss off, I'm going to work 80 hours a week. So you can't tell me what 40 hours a week I have to work.
Yeah.
I'm going to take on all these extra problems. I'm going to work all this extra time. I'm going to have to deal with all these extra headaches. But the one thing I get out of it is that no one can tell me what to do. So I think if you kind of take that and embrace it and then go, you better be good with people too, or you better figure out a way to use your skill to to find help that is good with people. Because at the end of the day, if you can't speak to people and you can't move an idea to someone else, you're stuck. And I've been in that place before where I've lost confidence in myself. So,
For sure.
Yeah.
So when you went to college, and after college you went, obviously you mentioned you were in hospitality. How was the experience for you, and how do you feel it was good working for a company before you decided to go on your own? And you went from hospitality into fitness and wellness industry. Was this always a passion, or was this a gradual transition for you?
Good questions. Working for a large company, and if people were, people are people, younger people that are listening, there's, when you talk to entrepreneurs, there's always this sort of, we kind of look down on large companies because it's just not our thing long term.
Yes, sure.
But we're, so I think that we should always be mindful to say that there's some good stuff, and I took some good lessons working for a huge multinational company like I did with Marriott. The training was top notch. There was no you were kind of thrown in at times, but you were thrown in a controlled environment, and there were some things that you just learned that were ironclad part of the ethos of the culture that I still remember to this day.
Yes.
One of the things was when we were in a hotel, you were working in a hotel, it didn't matter what you were doing. It didn't matter what you were going, what you were late for. If a guest stopped and needed to know where the pool was, you walked them all the way until they could see the pool. If you had a 10-minute walk, you walked them the whole way, you made conversation, then until you turned that hallway, and you could say, okay, Mr. Smith, see that door right there? That's going to get you into the pool. The pool's directly behind that door. You follow that. And you were always excused to be late for that. Say, I was taking care of a guest issue. I'd show a guest something. People are like, okay, that's no problem. We understand why you're 5 minutes late to the sales meeting. So the training was top notch.
So they were also empathetic as well to the needs of the customers. Yeah. Yeah,
and it was like, if you're taking care of a guest issue, that supersedes anything else. Your boss is calling you on the phone. Hey, I need you in my office. I got to call this customer back first. I got a guest. I got to call back. I got to do this. I got to do that. If it's directly guest related, that always took precedence. And that was kind of the ethos of the company. And the fact that, that was a company that was still managed and run in large part by the family when I was there. And they had sort of drilled that down into this worldwide company. I thought was really cool. And I still love that about that particular company, and companies that can do that now. When you have these huge companies,
there's so many that don't, right? That is lacking. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you see that with these large things, and there are brands that I'm drawn to because of the ethos that they're able to sort of, I guess, distill and then sort of broadcast to their people, to their followers, to sort of create a tribe around that. So, getting into the second part of your question, getting into fitness, getting into, people would always joke and say you came from the hotel restaurant industry into fitness, which is the weirdest, strangest thing ever, because most trainers hate food. And I was like, well, I don't. I happen to love food. That's why I'm in the gym, because I love to eat. I love a scotch. I love a whiskey. I like a little gin every once in a while. I have a sweet tooth. I love to eat. So that was me getting in the gym, was part of my allowance to myself of, yes, I want to eat along with this. So I was always trying to marry those two passions of athletics and fitness with good food and good wine, and sort of, to me, like the good life, which is very, I won't even use the word balance because I hate it now, but it just sort of, everything sort of flows in harmony at times.
Yeah. Well, it's also lifestyle choices, right?
Yeah, I mean, choices, and part of what I, as I went further in my journey as a trainer, what I started to see with people coming in, and they were just, through the questions and my experience with people, I could get them to open up a little, and they would just share and say, you know what, I just need to lose this 30 or 40 pounds, and then I'll finally be happy. And I remember a couple times just thinking and just eventually flat out saying no, you got other stuff you got to work on. It just, that's not it. You know what you're going to be? You're going to be 40 pounds lighter. You're going to be buying an entire
still not going to be happy.
Exactly. And you're still going to be you. And that's great. But this is not it. This is, in your case, this is a symptom. And then there were other people that they really had everything else in order, but they just needed that last little bit of, hey, I need to get my body in shape now. And when they did, those were the people that I would come in, they'd work out for 6 months to 12 months. And then they were like, you know what? I'm great. Thank you so much. I'm off on my own. And I'd see them maybe once a year. They'd pop in, we'd do a quick program refreshment, but they were good. And they were the ones that really had that long-term success. And that's why I got into, performance coaching and mindset coaching and that, because those were the ones, and that's what I wanted to start to bring to people, was to let them know that, like, no, your body's a symptom. Like, I've looked at these people that were really successful long-term that were clients of mine, and they had this work, or they had this support system already set up.
For sure. So this leads me to my next question. So in your career, you went through anxiety and depression. This as an entrepreneur, you talk about, and the cause of suicide, and the downside of entrepreneurship. How do you deal with, and how did you come back from that stronger? And what would your advice be to other people? Because this is something that people really don't want to talk about, and really do need to talk about, because I think that entrepreneurship is really over glamorized. I think that social media projects a lot of false positives, if you want to call it that. And I just think that these are subjects and these are things that need to actually be addressed. So what is your opinion around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with, my issues were long running and deep seated, and they were like little layers piled on after little layers. And in terms of, which just relates back to entrepreneurship, we take all this on, and we take this on, and I'm going to start this company. I have this vision, and subconsciously and hidden in that idea and that message is that I've got all this shit figured out that the rest of the world hasn't. And so we sort of walk through our day with that idea. And it's why a ton of businesses fail, and people fail off the start, and people fail over and over, is because they don't, there's that unconscious incompetence that they don't even know what they don't know.
No.
And they're too afraid to listen or ask. I look back at times in my career, and every time I got stuck at a certain level, it was because I didn't have knowledge. I didn't reach out. I refused to believe what I already knew inside and act on it, which was even worse. And all of this stuff leads to these little like layers piling and piling and piling on top of you. I should do this. I need to do that. I got sales. I got to do billing. I got to bring the books up to date. Oh God, there's a tax payment. There's an inspection coming. There's all this stuff that keeps coming up.
Yeah.
And if you don't write it down, if you don't talk about it, if you don't share with somebody, if you don't get help, it just piles on. And we as entrepreneurs by nature are problem solvers. We pride ourselves on our toughness and our durability and our work ethic and our ability to work long hours and all this stuff. And that sort of that character strength also is the Achilles heel of most entrepreneurs. And they, I've seen so many and talked to so many that, present this image, and meanwhile, they may have 6 figures rolling in, but they may be working 100, 110 hours a week, unhappy, unhealthy, medicating, distracting themselves with drugs, with alcohol, with other things. And it's not uncommon to hear that. And then you look at someone's Instagram page or their Facebook wall, and it's like, oh, I'm going on vacation.
And everything is unhappy. So picture perfect.
And it's like, if that, and hey, I get it. Like, not everybody wants to vomit their problems all over. And I'm the same. Like, I have things that I deal with in my life that I'm not ready to talk about publicly right now for a myriad of reasons. I don't think anybody has to share their entire lives on social media. However, I do think that there is a responsibility to sort of balance the idea of, okay, well, hey, it's Tuesday and it's 2:00 and I got my feet up and I'm watching a Netflix movie right now because I've closed the sales I need to today with, oh, by the way, my life is falling down around me. Or I've also struggled with this in the past, and so I think that there should be some sort of balance and some sort of like openness about it, because there is this romantic idea that is going around now that, oh yeah, and I remember people saying this to me, like I'd go play golf with my buddies and they're like, oh man, it must be great to get away, for 3-4 days, not have a boss, you're your own boss. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I got rid of my one boss and now I have, 32 bosses right now that is my client roster. And like, if they're not happy, like I don't get paid. They just all leave next week, like I don't get vacation time. Like I have to set all that up. So there's a lot to that. But I think that just to circle back, the depression, the anxiety, it's also, I think, because of this sort of driven creative nature, some of us just naturally have that biochemically, like that high that gets you working for 24 hours straight, or, working until 2-3 a.m. on a project and then waking up at 6 and starting again and having the energy to do that. It also leads to some massive burnouts. And like when you hit those bottoms, and I know I never did this, like when I would bottom out at times from working too much, all I would do was I would take more modafinil, I would drink more coffee, I would do whatever to keep going, rather than saying like, oh man, I'm fried, I got to shut it down for the rest of the day. Like I'm going to bed at 8 o'clock tonight. I'm doing like, like we don't shut it down at times because we don't really have an off switch. So there's a bunch of stuff that kind of piles into this answer, I think.
Okay. No, thank you. I appreciate that. So moving on from that, what would you say have been some of your career highlights?
That's interesting. There's two things that stick out when you say that. I think all the people that I've met in we just talked about one of the downsides of social media. One of the positives are the connections that you can make with people all over the world, and the fact that my 10-year-old daughter with her iPhone can watch a video that someone put up on YouTube 10 minutes before from Australia. Like that is an amazing thing. And some of the connections I've made with people that have been there when I've needed help, to reach out when I have a question, when I have an idea and say, hey, let me run this idea by you. And they said, that's stupid, or great idea, whatever. Those connections, I think that's a huge highlight. And that's the positive side of social media, is that it makes the world a smaller place. That's a good thing. For my career highlights, I think back, when I think about my career, I just see a lot of people's faces that came to, spend their dollars with me and trusted me with helping them get in shape. And I think back to the good times I had with those people, the people that have come to me when they're struggling with stuff, that they've put their trust in me when they're struggling with anxiety or depression, and they've seen from me, and they put their trust in me to reach out to me, because that's a tough thing to do, just to reach out. So those, I would say, those are my biggest highlights. Yeah, that takes a massive amount of courage. That's the first most courageous step you have to take, and then to keep going, obviously.
For sure. So the next question is, you have a passion for personal development and coaching. As it is not just about physical, but also about mental. Has this helped you personally, and how has it impacted your clients?
I think that the one thing that I kept going back to, and I looked at every area that any of the businesses I was in, any of the jobs that I was in, any of the roles I had where I fell short, where I didn't achieve what I wanted to or what my goals were, it was always because I lacked some sort of conviction, some sort of knowledge of who I really was at my core. And for me, that was the ultimate answer, was to go back and to discover and build that. And as I've been doing that, I've shared those tools and the stuff I've learned and stuff I've developed with others, and seeing that growth and seeing those things work and help people. That's been huge. It's been one of the biggest things for me, is taking what I've documented along the way and then sharing that with others, so that they don't have to go as far down into that pit that I went down in, so that they can go, oh man, I need help here. And then we can turn that ship around much faster than it did for me. That's awesome for me. That's great. That's what gets you out of bed in the morning. And that's what keeps you doing what you're doing when it feels like you shouldn't, when you have one of those
Yeah.
days where you're like, oh, those days,
Yeah.
the ones where everything sucks.
All
You
too
go to the
well.
restaurant, they burn your toast. Yeah, the toast is burned. The coffee's cold. Like one of those days, it's raining, you get crapped on by a bird. One of those days, there's still the
Yeah.
stuff that makes you go, all right, still going after this again. Like I haven't quit yet.
Yeah.
I got a little more that you didn't get to. Yeah, so that it's seeing that growth and the stuff that I've learned that I've been able to share with people, as an entrepreneur, first through fitness and then through, an expansion of that. And kind of what I tell people is I just, I was working on people from the outside in, and now I work from the inside out.
Yeah, for sure. So this leads me to the next question. So there is a lot of talk about leadership in today's entrepreneurial landscape. What is the real definition of leadership for you? Because I really think that there is a lack of real leadership. And, this is like, one of these buzzwords, like entrepreneurship and all of that. So, what is, what is real leadership, or your definition of real leadership? What does it mean?
One of my mentors, by the name of Jesse Elder, shared this story in a group that I was in on a training of his, and he shared it multiple times. But it's a parable of the lighthouse and the tugboat. And the lighthouse, the tugboat gets ships where they need to be, and it pulls ships all day, one ship at a time. It drags them and it pulls them and it pushes and it uses a ton of energy, and it does exactly what it wants to do. It does its job just fine. And then there's the lighthouse that stands as a pillar on a hill, embedded in rock, and just shines its light, and ships get where they need to be based on the light that lighthouse shines out. That's been always, I think, since I heard that to me is sort of an esoteric version of leadership. How do you lead your life? How do you speak? And, when I say these things, I always hold myself up against them and say, yeah, I got work to do here. I got work to do there. I'm always human first, and a leader or a coach or a mentor or whatever, student second. But I always have work to do to reach that ideal. And I know that I never will. And that's, I think, one of my favorite parts of life is that there's never an end to it until the literal end. There's just another level to climb. Yeah. There's another hill, there's another summit, that ultimate challenge. The landscape shifts, but the levels just keep changing. And I think that's one of the most exciting things to me. And look back at leadership, I aspire to and am drawn to those with the strength in their convictions, even if I disagree with them. And I messaged somebody the other day on Facebook because they were sharing an opinion which I just didn't even like and disagreed. But I realized that this guy always had this opinion, and he was not obnoxious about it, but he was just very firm, and he had his reasons. It was very calm and firm and very respectful about how he shared everything. Yeah. And I just messaged him and I was like, hey, you know what? I love how you share your opinions. Like, you're one of the few people I still follow on Facebook because you always share your opinions are well thought out. Even if I disagree with them, I appreciate your conviction. And I don't even agree with this point you made, but I appreciate the conviction in which you've made it. And I just wanted to say that. So I think that's kind of, that lighthouse and tugboat is sort of my definition of leadership.
Okay. No, that's great. Thank you. And then there is so much on social media in today's business climate and in general. So how do you use these tools to help you without drowning in all this social media vomit and noise?
Oh my God, I love this topic. I wrote an entire 22-page book on how to deal with this, just on this topic alone. So I will give you the highlights, because I meant to write like a 2-sheet little checklist, and I just ranted. And then I got done and walked away for a day, and I came back and was like, okay, this needs a lot of editing, but there's something here. So I'll give you the practical tools. I have starting from the outside in, I have a smartwatch. It's a Garmin. It doesn't get notifications. Like, I don't get emails buzz through there. The only thing that will buzz is if I get a text message. So that means someone has my private cell number, or a phone call. It will buzz. Other than that, Like there's no notifications. So that means a Facebook notification doesn't go there, an Instagram message, you know, none of those social media things go to my watch, which means that I can put my phone down and go in another room and I'm not bothered by it. It's something that there's a certain level of inner circle that someone has gotten to me if they do. And so the notifications on my watch are just pretty much non-existent. So my watch functions as a watch and tracks my steps and my sleep and running and all that stuff. Second thing is the notifications on the phone just need to go. Like the constant buzzing, you know, there's no reason that when someone responds to your Facebook post, you need to get a buzz on your phone. Like, get your dopamine somewhere else. Like get your dopamine in a controlled manner, not from me responding to Karen Black's cool Facebook status of you walking through the woods. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that, like, if you are going to have notifications on the phone, the maximum you should, and maximum that's going to be productive for you is that little red or green or whatever color circle that says you've got a notification there. Other than that, like, you know, get rid of them. Like there's no reason, you know, when you respond to a post or you respond to something, immediately click those three dots and say turn off notifications for this post. Because otherwise you'll still get a little circle that tells you that someone may reply to your comment that you may need to respond to, but you don't need to know when somebody else responded to the same post, because especially if they're going to get 50 responses.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, those are huge things. The second thing or third thing is managing like how your phone is set up. And I'm just going to stay with phones here specifically because 90% of us use social media through our phones. That home screen, like when I open the home screen on my phone, first of all, the home screen, I just changed my lock screen today, and I've got an app on there that tells me how many days I have left until I die. And that's like my lock screen. So every time, and it shows it up like a battery. And so it shows I have 50% of my life left, essentially, like sticking right there. So every time I open my phone, there's that reminder that's staring at my life, like, you have half your life left. Do you want to spend it? How do you want to spend it? So the next thing, my home screen has my app on there to tell me how I slept. It has my alarm clock on there. It has my meditation app. It has binaural beats app, and then a couple music apps. There's no social media on there. I don't get email notifications at all. So those, I have to physically go in and check my email. The text button is at the bottom, but like to get to any of my social media, you've got to move to like the third screen. So I can wake up in the morning. I can see what the weather's going to be. I can see how I slept the night before. I can go right into my meditation. I can turn on binaural beats if I'm going to go into a work phase. I can turn on music if I'm going to work out or if I'm going to do something. So I can do all these things without ever seeing anything from social media. And I don't have any of the banners that come up. So any messages through Facebook, any messages through Instagram, none of that stuff will even show up on my home screen. So I can operate, you know, on my phone without any of this showing up. I can get into my phone. I can turn my alarm off. I can review the stuff for the day and go through my morning routine. All the tools I have are there without me flipping. Now I still have to keep myself from flipping, but that's a practice. You know, it's a practice for all of us. So those are the three biggest things I think. You know, there's no really such thing as multitasking. You know, it's just task switching, and there's a cognitive load. You know, there's a pull on your energy and your focus every time you go back and forth from one task to another. So the more times your phone is buzzing at you to tell you something that you don't really need to know, it's just distracting your focus, and eventually you're just going to reach a point of diminishing returns with your energy and your focus.
Absolutely. So this
I know all that. I know. Let me just follow up one thing. I know all of that because I'm a distractible son of a bitch. Like I love nothing more than a squirrel running out in front of me and distracting me. So I've learned all that the hard way. I'm speaking to myself first in terms of distractions.
Yeah, for sure. Because this is something that has been kind of on my mind as well, still sticking on the social media stuff, is that you know, there's so much content being produced, and this is all great, and you know, it's promoting your services and it's promoting these things. But you know, because I'm kind of not kind of, I am a very observant person, so sometimes, you know, I will look at a lot of things. So we have people like Gary Vee and a lot of people producing a lot of great content, and it's really great because they're helping a lot of people. But there is the other side where you could spend so much time consuming all of this content that you're actually not applying or doing what you're supposed to do. So there's that part of it. And then on the other side, I heard someone the other day mention in an Insta story or whatever it was, where they were like, they feel guilty because they don't really engage in, watch, people's content that they support, or, that provide really good content, because they're so busy building their own, which is perfectly understandable, and I get it. But I also kind of feel like there's many parts to this. So the one would be that if somebody, if people are supporting you, and I'm not saying you should expect it, but I think that if you are trying to engage with people and people are engaging with you, I think it is a common courtesy to reciprocate on some level. So, because the thing is, let's say you post something or you post content, whether it's Instagram or whatever, and I comment and you thank me. But I think that as well as that, where is the balance? Because on one side, if you're continually consuming, you're not creating of your own. But if you're not engaging, it's, you know what I mean? So it almost feels like, where is the line?
Yeah.
Because
where's the common courtesy, with the time management, with the being a good human? Where's the balance?
Because the one thing that Robin Sharma has said is so many people are leaving so much money on the table in terms of their talents, because there is too much in terms of, like you said, your phone pings. Like with me, I put my phone on silent. I don't get emails to my phone. I only get emails to my laptop, because I feel like at some point you have to disconnect to recharge yourself. And if you continually bombarded with everything that's going on social media, it's like, oh, I feel guilty because I didn't watch this content, and maybe I could have gotten something out of that I, would have missed. But at the same token, it's like Robin said, you can't have it both ways. You either have to be the person out there creating and building the business, and there is so much going on where people are like, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and trying to show the world, but meantime they're living out of their grandmother's garage. And this is why I'm saying it's like, even with everybody's an author, everybody's a coach, everybody's a speaker, but really, like, they don't have the credentials to back up what their mouth says. So this is why I'm trying to really get to the bottom of, like, where is the line?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it varies for everybody. And you touched on something. The two things that I talk to people about when this issue comes up is we, whoever we're talking about, have to consider becoming a creator rather than a consumer. And I mean that in multiple ways, versus, are you creating the life that you want for yourself? And this is a big picture esoteric thing. Are you creating the life that you want for yourself, or consuming bits and pieces of other people's lives in a way that sort of is anesthetizing yourself to the things that are holding you back? And I did that for years. So I know firsthand when I see it. I was going to spend all day Saturday, or I'm going to spend hours watching sports because I'm distracting myself from this work that needs to be done, because I want my business to be at a different level. I want a relationship to be at a different level.
Yeah.
I want to spend more time doing this, but instead I'm taking the easy route here. It's the same thing when you're scrolling through, is like, I'm going to scroll through. I'm bumping up to the 5,000 friend limit on Facebook. Now, probably 75, 80% of those people have requested me after content that I've written and videos I've put out and stuff. I'll put something out, it gets shared, 30 friend requests come in. So to manage a news feed and to even like use Facebook as a useful tool, there's just a practicality of how many people I'm able to follow in there.
Yeah.
Now what I do is I do try to every, day to 2 days go back, and anyone that's commented, I tried to, respond to any comments, even if it's just a simple thank you for someone saying, I like your post. I always like to, I try to do that. Not
Yeah.
perfect, but I'm probably batting in the 85% there. And even,
Yeah.
some guy gave me some shitty remark, about how boring and bland I was. And I just, I was like, and then, I just, he unfriended me. And so I just responded to that because I wanted to say, hey, like, you don't like my content. Like, I'm glad that you are exercising your free will by telling me you don't like it, and then you're unfriending me. That's totally cool. Like, that guy should spend his time and energy on social media, in my opinion, somewhere that it's more productive for him. And if he's
Yeah.
bored by me, then you should go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that content and creation thing. Now, I think that if there's people that we are constantly seeing and we like their stuff, but maybe we're not commenting because we're doing our own thing. I mean, it takes 30 seconds in the car or somewhere to send someone a voice note. And I love sending voice notes to people. You know that I send voice notes.
For sure.
We voice noted back and forth. If I'm in the car, I will hit the voice note button to send someone hey, I got your message, or hey, I like that piece of content, or hey, I saw it's your birthday. Man, we haven't talked in a long time. Happy birthday. Hope you have a great day. Maybe we should catch up in the next couple of weeks. Let me know what your schedule's like. Or, hey, I saw this piece of content. I mean, I sent one to a week or two ago to someone who I hadn't talked to in a long time, and it popped in my head that they shared some stuff that really helped me make a couple degrees shift in where my mind was and what I was doing with myself. And I don't know that I ever told them. I just sent a voice message like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. You wrote this thing a couple years ago. It forced me to kind of look at my own life in a really harsh, but way I needed.
But constructive
and it really
way.
helped me. Yeah, constructive way. I really needed that. It helped me grow. And I don't think I ever thanked you for that. I really appreciate that. Now, that person has probably written since then, I don't know, 100, 200 pieces of content. I've interacted with a few of them. But that message, I know they got it because they wrote back and said, wow, thanks. I appreciate you sharing that. So I think there's little ways to do that don't involve us liking, constantly commenting. DMs are a great way to offer an appreciation to somebody. I get them from time to time, people that just say, hey, I don't comment on your posts a lot, but I want to let you know that I really appreciate what you do and thanks for doing it. So I think that sort of is another way that's time effective. And for me, like I said, when I've got this many people, there is a sort of housekeeping issue that you make the cut or you don't on my timeline. Now, however, there are people that I haven't followed, that I've unfollowed, that are friends of mine, that all of a sudden become regular contributors or commenters on some of my work. Then I'll go revisit what they're doing, And so I think you have to figure out that harmony for each person. But it is easy to fall into what we call the self help version of just constant consuming, constant waiting. That waiting until, all right, I just need to watch a few more videos. I just need to read a few more books. I need to get this one more product. I need to build out this funnel before I do my thing. When you don't even have shit to do yet. So you know what I mean? There's like that passive sort of perfectionism that goes on with that knowledge consumption that's very dangerous also.
For sure. So coming almost to a closing, what are the three key pieces of advice that you would give other entrepreneurs, and what is your personal vision?
Ooh, good ones. My first, so for entrepreneurs, the first thing is know yourself.
Yeah.
That's the one thing, is just know yourself at the deepest, darkest core that you can.
Yeah.
And get really comfortable and embrace all of that. The good, the bad, the stuff that you don't want anybody to know about. You don't ever have to tell people. I would think it's helpful, my personal opinion. But those dark corners of you, that rage monkey that comes out when you get cut off in traffic, like all of that stuff, get to know yourself, because at some point everything is going to burn down, or you're going to burn everything down. And you may look back and realize you did it all when you're blaming everyone else for your problems and your business collapsing. But get to know yourself, because you need that foundation. At the end of the day, when everything is collapsing around you, you need to be able to go, you know what? It's me. and I got nothing else, but I'm good with this. It's a start, and I like my odds. You know, if
Yeah.
you know yourself at the core and you're comfortable with yourself, you'll always be able to use that as a foundation to pivot or to springboard into something else.
So
You know,
when you
so
talk about that, just to highlight that point, so because I think everybody goes through something, and then they feel like, oh, I've lost something, or I failed at this, or you kind of almost go through a very big learning curve. Do you think, and this is obviously just going deeper on what you've just said, but do you think that that when you are almost graduating to another level, if I can say that, sometimes you have to actually go through something very hard to force you to get to the next level, or to help you grow to the next level? So do you believe that that is the case, or do you just believe, oh, wow, it happened, whatever? Because, I mean, I've been through some hardships, as you know, and um, if I look at it, and it's something that actually Oprah has said in her in a couple of her interviews, is that at the time you don't always realize why you're going through something, or even like, what am I doing? Because you go through this thing of like, oh, like I've hit this age, or I've hit this thing, and like, what am I doing? And you don't always realize it until you get, or hit the next level, and then you look back and you go, oh, okay, that was the reason why. So do you believe that, or do you believe something else?
yeah, no, I believe that. And I think that the path that most of us take, because we're stubborn sons of bitches, is that we wait until, it's like life, the universe, God, whatever words you want to use, like kind of the analogy of like you get pebbles thrown at you, and then like it's a rock and you're kind of like, ow, cut it out. I'm
Yeah.
doing my thing. I know what I'm doing. And then eventually you get hit with a boulder and it knocks you to the side. I think we tend to go that route. I
Yes.
think that after you have a big one or two, you learn strategies. And then if you continually understand that practicing awareness for your situations in the world around you, and understanding that, where your strengths and weaknesses lie, not just in terms of business tactics, but in terms of your personality, I
Yeah.
think that then it gets easier to make those steps up at the levels, but it never becomes easy.
No.
I think that unfortunately a lot of us, just due to our stubborn nature, go through these massive like breakthroughs, I like to call them, because people are like, oh, I had a breakdown. It's like, well, give us time, you'll see it was a breakthrough. But
Yes.
you kind of, at times we have to have one or two of these big ones, and hopefully it's not health related, because that's hard to come back from. But we have to go through a couple of these reinventions that are almost like shoved down our throats until we go, all right, I'm backing up. I'm going to understand that some of this is like, I got to be open to new stuff. Otherwise, like, I'm going to continually get this rammed down my throat, and it's going to spectacularly blow up. So I think that, I see that in a lot of people, and that's part of the work I do, is like, let's kind of like round the curves on that a little bit and make it less difficult for people, and less painful to go through that sort of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, thank you so much for sharing and for joining us today. And look forward to having you in the future.
I loved it. Thanks for having me. Thanks so much.
Thank you.